This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
.45, this is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by Lal Malawarachi and read by Lavani Vijayatunga. First, we take a look at the headlines. The Finance Minister says that the country will fully reopen through a vibrant economic management to provide concession to the general public. The mobile vaccination service has been launched for those who are sick and unable to leave their homes. The President says that the Kotalavala Defence University too will be brought under the UGC's purview. Revised quarantine measures for travellers arriving in the country from overseas. The Education Ministry will take the final decision on Tuesday on conducting the GC Advanced Level and the Scholarship examinations. In news overseas, UK Health Secretary tests positive for COVID. And in sports news, the ODI series between Sri Lanka and India begins in Colombo today. Those are the headlines, and now more to the details of the local news. The Minister of Finance, Basil Rajapaksa, says that the government has given priority to take measures to fully reopen the country through a vibrant economic management to provide concessions to the general public. The Finance Minister made these comments when he met with a group of heads of local government bodies at Temple Trees yesterday. He said the present administration lost multiple local and international revenue streams due to the closure of the country on several occasions. He also stated that only by keeping the country open, the government will be able to generate a sustainable income. A mobile vaccination service has been launched for those who are sick and unable to leave their homes. The program started in Piliyandale area yesterday with the support of Sri Lanka Air Force and the Kotalavala Kasbah Divisional Secretariat. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has given these instructions when he chaired a meeting on the Special Committee on COVID-19 Prevention recently. MOH officers in the relevant areas will coordinate this program. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa says existing obstacles in the University Grants Commission Act will be eliminated and the Kotalavala Defence University too will be brought under its purview. This remark came during the 11th meeting with the Buddhist Advisory Council held at the Presidential Secretariat on Friday. The President has briefed the Mahasangha on the measures taken by the government to control the spread of COVID-19, including its vaccination drive and the Kotalavala Defence University Bill. He stated that the Kotalavala Defence University has produced a large number of scholars to the country over the past 40 years and that even students who pass the GC Advanced Level examination with high marks are also eager to choose the Kotalavala Defence University for their higher education. President Rajapaksa pointed out the need to establish such high-quality universities in the country in order to save large amount of money lost to the country and to the parents when sending their children abroad for higher education. This is the news from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
A giant interest rate for your fixed deposit that you deposit this month. Call 0718 800 999.
And we continue with more local news. Director General of Health Services has issued a special circular announcing the revised quarantine measures for travellers arriving in the country from overseas. Those arriving in Sri Lanka from overseas after 14 days of full vaccination no longer need to undergo 14 days of quarantine if their on-arrival PCR is tested negative. This is not applicable to travel-restricted countries. The new quarantine measures specified in the guidelines will apply to Sri Lankans, including Sri Lankan seafarers, dual citizens, as well as foreign nationals. Minister Professor G.L. Pires said that the Education Ministry will take the final decision on Tuesday on conducting the GC Advanced Level and the Scholarship examinations. The Ministry has given priority now to complete the vaccination program for the teachers without delay. The Minister further said that though the online education is needed at the moment, given the realities of the pandemic, it is not a viable alternative for traditional learning. The government is to start 16 TV channels meant for school education. The Epidemiology Unit of the Health Ministry reports that another 1,447 persons have tested positive for COVID-19 in Sri Lanka yesterday. This brings the total number of confirmed cases of coronavirus reported in the country to 283,507. As many as 255,833 recoveries and 3,733 deaths have been confirmed in Sri Lanka since the outbreak of the pandemic. The Epidemiology Unit's data showed that 23,972 active cases are currently under medical care. And to conclude this local news, the headlines once again. The Finance Minister says that the country will fully reopen through a vibrant economic management to provide concessions to the general public. The mobile vaccination service has been launched for those who are sick and unable to leave their homes. The President says that the Kothalavala Defence University too will be brought under the UGC's purview. Revised quarantine measures for travellers arriving in the country from overseas. The Education Ministry will take the final decision on Tuesday on conducting the GC Advanced Level and the Scholarship Examination. And that was the local news.
An important announcement from HDFC Bank. A giant interest rate for your fixed deposit that you deposit this month. Enjoy special interest rates based on deposit amount and the government security. Call 0718 800 999 HDFC. An important announcement from HDFC Bank. A giant interest rate for your fixed deposit that you deposit this month. Enjoy special interest rates based on deposit amount and the government security. Call 0718 800 999 HDFC.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
The main news story for this morning, the Ministry of Environment has taken steps to ban the production and distribution of polythene lunch sheets in Sri Lanka from 1st August. Accordingly, Minister Mahinda Amaravira says that only biodegradable lunch sheets can be used for food wrapping after 1st August, and only those lunch sheets can be manufactured in factories in the country, distributed and sold. At present, there are 8 companies in Sri Lanka that produce biodegradable lunch sheets, and the Minister of Environment Mahinda Amaravira had extensive discussions with his representatives in this regard recently. The industrialists pointed out that they had to bear the high cost of importing the raw material needed to produce the biodegradable lunch sheets. They say it costs 3 times more to produce these fast decomposing lunch sheets than the lunch sheets made of polythene. They also requested the government to provide tax relief for this purpose. However, the minister instructed the Central Environmental Authority to immediately provide a report to him on their problems to present at the cabinet. And that was the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
And in Watchline this morning, Sri Lanka Police is making plans to initiate a mechanism to resolve public issues at village level through community police units. Its pilot project is expected to be kicked off tomorrow. Speaking in this regard, Senior DIG in charge of Western Province, Deshabandhu Tenokon, said the aim of this program is to carry out crime prevention duties directly through the rural community police units. That came to you in Watchline. And now let's move on to the headlines of the world news. UK Health Secretary tests positive for COVID. Rescuers race to find survivors as hundreds remain missing in Europe floods. Hottest day ever in Northern Ireland as temperatures soar above 13 degrees Celsius. Those were the headlines, and now we move on to the details of the world news. Health Secretary Sajid Javid says that he has tested positive for COVID-19 and is suffering very mild symptoms. Mr. Javid, who said he had received both vaccine doses, took a lateral flow test last morning after feeling a bit groggy on Friday night, and he came back positive. He said he is now self-isolating until he gets the results of the PCR test. It comes as the UK recorded more than 50,000 daily cases for the second day running. Rescue crew have been racing to find survivors of the floods that have wreaked havoc across Western Europe, killing more than 150 people. Hundreds are still missing after record rainfall triggered severe floods in Germany and Belgium. Heavy rains also hit Switzerland, Luxembourg and the Netherlands, where UK Prime Minister and Prime Minister Mark Rutte had declared a national disaster in the southern province. European leaders have blamed the extreme weather on climate change. Temperatures in the Northern Ireland reached a record-breaking highest yesterday as thermometers soared above 30 degrees Celsius. It is the hottest day on record, with near the newer towns in the county Down recording a temperature of 31.2 degrees Celsius. The previous high was 30.8 degrees Celsius, set in the summers of 1976 and the year 1983. Record-breaking temperatures require a series of factors to line up one after the other, and today they just did that. And to conclude the world news, the headlines once again. UK Health Secretary tests positive for COVID. Rescuers race to find survivors as hundreds remain missing in Europe floods. Hottest day ever in Northern Ireland as temperatures soar above 30 degrees Celsius. And that was the world news.
Development News is brought to you by
Quality matters than price. So as an engineer, I recommend Melba RB500. It's made with virgin billets using the latest technology. Melba RB500, number one in Sri Lanka. Truly Sri Lankan.
And in development news, Asapua International Meditation Center, Piliandala Road, Godigamu Maharagama has commenced the construction of their new center and the same premises to accommodate growing demand from new members. The mentor behind the project, Sadhun Samaratunga, said that this center was created 6 years ago due to numerous requests from retired civil and public servants, corporates and elderly people. However, today a new trend to follow meditation is emerging from the younger generation and also working with youth to relieve their stress. And that came to you in the segment of Development News.
Development News was brought to you by
Quality matters than price. So as an engineer, I recommend Melba RB500. It's made with virgin billets using the latest technology. Melba RB500, number one in Sri Lanka. Truly Sri Lankan.
Moving on to sports news, middle order batsman Bhanuka Rajapaksa and Minod Bhanuka have returned to the Sri Lankan squad and are expected to play in today's first of the 3 ODIs against India. That was a star cast of hardcore players who have successfully featured in the professional Indian Premier League IPL. The 2 Bhanukas featured prominently when they represented a makeshift Sri Lanka team on a tour of Pakistan in the year 2018 that produced successful results under the guidance of Captain Dasun Shanaka. That was the sports news. Business news coming up.
Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply. Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank. The safest place for your money.
And in business news, Barista, the largest and the much-loved cafe chain in Sri Lanka, recently launched its dedicated coffee app, digitally crafted by Arimak Lanka, in order to allow customers easy access to their favorite barista products. Speaking at the launch of the app, Barista General Manager Dilupa Pathirana said, "It is all about convenience and safety these days, especially with the lockdowns and travel." That was the business news. Economic news follows.
Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank. The safest place for your money. Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply.
And in economic news, both manufacturing and services sectors of Sri Lanka recovered during June from the adverse impacts of the third wave of COVID-19 pandemic, the central bank's Purchasing Managers Index PMI survey showed. Manufacturing activities recovered marginally during June 2021, recording a manufacturing PMI of 50.4 value of 50.4 in June 2021, with an increase of 8.3 index points from the previous monthly mainly driven by a strong recovery seen in new orders. That was economic news and the weather report to conclude.
Weather report was sponsored by
Dialogue, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, introduces Nanasa, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A-levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
And finally, the weather report: showers will occur at times in the Sabaragamuwa province and in the Kandy and Nuwara districts. Several spells of showers will occur in the Western province and in the Gaul and Mathura districts. Showers or thunder showers will occur at several places elsewhere during the evening or night. Fairly heavy falls, about 35 millimeters, can be expected at some places in the Uva, Eastern and North Central provinces. Fairly strong gusty winds up to 50 km per hour at times is likely in the Western, Southern and Sabaragamuwa provinces. And that was the weather report.
Weather report was sponsored by
Dialogue, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, introduces Nanasa, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A-levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
And before we conclude this bulletin of news, let's get back to the headlines once again. The Finance Minister says that the country will open fully through a vibrant economic management to provide concessions to the general public. A mobile vaccination service has been launched for those who are sick and unable to leave their homes. The President says that the Kothalavala Defence University too will be brought under the UGC's purview. Revised quarantine measures for travellers arriving in the country from overseas. The Education Ministry will take the final decision on Tuesday on conducting the GC Advanced Level and the Scholarship Examination. In news overseas, UK Health Secretary tests positive for COVID. And in sports news, the ODI series between Sri Lanka and India begins in Colombo today. And with that, we conclude this bulletin of news.